You know, some of the most extraordinary stories that I've covered were beneath the simplest grave markers. This is one of those stories. There were outlaws. And then there was Hookey Miller. Even among the most hardened criminals, his name carried a reputation that made men think twice about crossing him. They called him Hookey because of the iron hook that replaced his missing hand. But it wasn't the hook that people feared. It was the man attached to it. Today, he rests beneath the simple stone in Rose Hill Burial Park. Most visitors walk right past it without realizing they're standing above one of the most extraordinary lives of the Oklahoma frontier. Before he died, George Daniel Miller had lived enough lives for 3 different men: Texas Ranger, outlaw, prisoner, bartender, deputy sheriff. How does one man become all of those things? Born around 1861 or 1862 in Texas, George Daniel Miller's early life looked surprisingly ordinary. He worked ranches, briefly served as a Texas Ranger, married Nellie Gibson, and together they had 2 sons. It might have remained an unremarkable frontier life until George made one decision that changed everything. He left his family, crossed into Oklahoma Territory, and joined Red Buck Wakeman's cattle rustling gang. The gang wasn't known exactly for mercy, but according to many accounts, Hookey Miller wasn't simply another outlaw. He was an outlaw that others watched. Some believed his temper had become so unpredictable that even members of his own gang no longer trusted him. Finally, life caught up with George Miller. On March 5, 1896, he and his gang were surrounded by a posse inside a hideout. Gunfire erupted. A bullet struck the revolver in George's right hand, knocking it away. True to his nature, he reached for another. Moments later, a shot shattered his right hand. 3 fingers on his left hand were badly damaged as well. Doctors had no choice but to amputate what was left of his right hand. While serving his prison sentence in Texas, he was fitted with the steel hook. Most men would have considered their life over, but Hookey Miller wasn't most men. With his prison sentence behind him, George returned to Oklahoma, determined to begin again. He found work tending bar at the notorious Corner Saloon. Even there, he rarely let his guard down. His Winchester rifle was never far away. Despite a steel hook for one hand and only 2 usable fingers on the other, he was still considered a deadly marksman.
You think losing this hand slowed me down?
Then the trail takes on another unexpected turn. By the early 1920s, George Hookey Miller was wearing a badge once again, serving as a deputy sheriff in 3 Sands, Oklahoma. Few men in the Old West lived entirely on one side of the law. Hookey Miller spent his life walking the line between. But on July 21st, 1923, the tables turned. Hookey Miller and Deputy John Two Gun Middleton entered a cafe. They encountered Jackson Chief Burns. Gunfire erupted. Both deputies were hit. As Hookey lay dying, he reportedly said, "I'd like to live long enough to take a shot at that yellow Middleton." He never got the chance. Hookey Miller died on the way to the hospital. This simple marker hides the extraordinary life of a man who crossed nearly every side of the law. Today, George Miller Sr. rests quietly here. History remembers the outlaw, the lawman, the legend, but to the people who loved him, he was simply grandfather.